K-pop demon hunters Saja Boy's breakfast meal and Huntrix meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
Morning decisions. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
It's Monday morning. Our troops around the world are working. Talk about working overtime. They are working triple time.
Yeah. It's rough out there right now, huh?
I have trouble getting out of bed at 6:30.
Oh, wow.
I know. And then I think about what these people are doing. And I'm like, come on, man. You can do this.
Yeah. They're like, I would do anything for a bed right now.
Exactly.
And you're complaining about getting out of it?
And I'm laughing because it's not funny. It is way, way, way too real for people now. So I think this is maybe the most important salute we've had in a long time. On behalf of the
Mickey Mouse.
I was going to say, is that the right cup to be using?
It might not. It's what's in my hand. People that don't know, I've got a Mickey Mouse having trouble getting up. This is what I look like at 6:30. On behalf of the men and women making Podcast of Mom's Basement, though, very, very seriously. And the men and women who are all trying to stack Benjamins, I think we all need to salute our troops. Thank you so much for the hard work you're doing for all of us. Stay safe out there, people. Let's go stack some Benjamins now.
Thanks, everybody.
Hoorah.
I feel like we need to have Mickey going. Thanks, everybody.
Good morning, Christopher Robin.
Oh, good morning, Winnie the Pooh.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today we're declaring a state of emergency for this podcast. No, the basement didn't flood. Specifically, we're helping you build a better emergency fund. How does it look? How do we raise the interest rate so that you're locking in some better returns? What are risks you definitely do not want to shoulder? We've gotcha, and today we'll help you make some bank. Plus, it's episode 2 of our new Financial Planning Basics series with Anna and OG. Ready to dive into how to really trim expenses? That's coming in the second half, right after the best part of the show. Such a hard act to follow, man. I feel sorry for these two guys. Right after my incredible trivia. And now, here come two guys who are ready to help you spring clean your money situation. It's Joe and OG.
Hey there, stackers. Happy Monday to you. We are so happy to be back and ready to help you. Man, we got an action-packed show today, OG. We're talking emergency funds. We talked emergency funds all last week, and apparently we had something to say. We had something to say because we haven't even talked about raising your interest rates on your emergency funds. How do you make those actually keep up with inflation? We got that today. You ready?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm ready.
That is my excited face.
That was a 7 on the OG Richter scale, which is a 2 for everybody else. But yes, resting OG face is a real thing.
It is.
Man, we do have a great show. But before we get to that, on Wednesday night, we're doing something. We haven't done one of these special stack events in a long, long time. We got one coming up. There was a film called Retirement Plan that was up for Best Animated Short. First of all, a movie about retirement plans. Can't figure out why it didn't win. But the fact that it was up for an Oscar in the first place, I think is something we need to celebrate.
Isn't this show technically up for an Oscar?
It should be. I do have to say this. I don't know if people saw the news. The Golden Globes now has a Best Podcast category. So we could, I know you're being facetious, but 2027...
I wasn't being facetious.
The Golden Globe goes to
possibly
so
you.
You're saying there's a chance.
Could be. Us and Conan O'Brien going head to head. Finally, for that the piece of hardware. So on Wednesday, the movie's called Retirement Plan. It's a 7-minute long film. We're going to watch it together. And then afterwards, we invited the creators of the Retire Meet Conference, who also have an awesome podcast called Talking Real Money. Our friends Don and Tom are going to join us from Talking Real Money and Retire Meet, because these guys have seen a lot of people retire over the years. And so we're going to talk retirement after we watch this great film. And I know a lot of you may have already watched it. You might even want to watch it ahead of time, so you get to watch it twice, because it's, like I mentioned, not that long. And it has a lot to say, OG, about the state of retirement. So Wednesday night, Doug, what's the time on that? I think it's 8. Is it 8 p.m. Eastern?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
And it's stackingbenjamins.com/movie gets you there, or just go to our YouTube page and join us. But if you want all the details on what we're doing, you got to make popcorn ahead of time.
Gross.
What?
What?
No popcorn. What are
You
you
seriously
talking
don't like
about?
popcorn?
No.
What are you talking about?
What's the matter?
Okay. We got a couple sponsors to help us keep on keeping on. We're going to hear from them so I can stop having flames come out my ears, because this is driving me crazy. And when we come back, I'm going to be much cooler. I'm going to have cooled down. We're going to heat up the interest rates on your emergency fund.
See what you did there.
You may not know that when we started Stacking Benjamins, it was a blog. And even then, just the startup cost, I remember thinking, is this the right thing? And what if I write things and nobody comes, right? Well, luckily, that didn't end up happening. But starting something new isn't just hard. It's terrifying. There's so much work. You're not sure whether it's going to work out. You're not sure if anybody's going to read it. And then we change it to a podcast. Is anybody actually going to listen, right? What if nobody wants all the stuff that we have? Well, had I used Shopify, it would have been even easier, because with their expertise, their helpful tools, and their easy to use platform, that's something that would have made Stacking Benjamins more effective much, much more quickly. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Names you've heard of like Heinz and Mattel, Shopify, Gymshark, Aviator Nation, Allbirds, also all Shopify. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. And did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button? It's used by millions of businesses around the world. It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. It also helps boost conversions, meaning less carts going abandoned and more sales for you. So you're stacking Benjamins much more quickly. Time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/SB. Go to shopify.com/SB. That's shopify.com/SB. Spring cleaning's made its way to my closet. This time of year always makes me rethink exactly what's in my closet. Really want to keep fewer things, but I also want to keep better ones. I want to feel confident, and to feel confident, looking the part's a big piece of that. So I want pieces that are well made and that are easy to wear all the time. And that's why I keep coming back to Quince. The fabrics feel elevated. The fits are thoughtful. Pricing actually makes sense. As I'm swapping out and I'm cutting, the few additions I'm making all come from Quince. Quince makes high-quality, everyday essentials using premium materials like 100% European linen. They're insanely soft, flow-knit activewear fabric. Their men's linen pants and shirts are lightweight, they're breathable, they're comfortable. Basically, the perfect layer for spring. The pants strike the right balance between laid back and refined. If you saw the video of me on stage at Retire Meet, those pants are from Quince. It was really cool. I came off stage and Christine Benz from Morningstar getting ready to go on behind me and said, "Love your pants." Not generally. I absolutely love them. I think they make me look put together without trying too hard. And they're flow-knit activewear, moisture wicking, anti-odor, soft enough that you'll actually want to wear it all day. The best part is their prices. This is important, stackers. They are 50 to 60% less than similar brands. How? Quince works directly with ethical factories, cuts out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality, not brand markup. Everything's designed to last and make getting dressed easy, which is another thing I think we all want. I love those pants that I wore on stage. It's the cashmere sweater that every time I wear it, Cheryl goes, that is my favorite sweater on you. It looks great, feels great, and I don't have to have 50 things in my closet. So, like I am, refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. Go to QUINCE.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/SB. I love this idea of an emergency fund, but the thing that gives our super stackers hives is the fact that getting an interest rate on this emergency fund is
garbage.
Yeah, it just, oh my goodness.
Popcorn. We'll just say popcorn from now on.
No.
We mean garbage.
No, we won't. No, we are not. If we're thinking delicious. We started this discussion around emergency funds last week, so people want to go through a few things. You can hear on Monday about debt levels rising and about how an emergency fund and tracking your expenses is the number one way to know that, you know what, maybe expenses are going up and I'm not catching it. It's they're kind of your tripwires in your budget to know before you go into debt that things are coming off the rails. And then on Wednesday, we gave you an introduction to how much money should you have in an emergency fund and all the reasons why. Now, what's cool is that discussion, we're actually going to continue next week with OG and Anna. So they're going to actually put even fencing around that for you next Monday.
Electric fencing.
Yes. Today, we're going to talk about getting those interest rates up on the emergency fund. And the first thing I think we have to do, OG, is we have to redefine where that interest is coming from, because truly the way to get a higher return on your emergency fund is thinking about all the things it helps you do. And we kind of introduced this a little bit last week. Number one, we don't have to hedge our bets with our investments. We can go ahead and invest with the time frame in mind, meaning a lot of people go, what if I need this money ahead of time? I'm going to take a little less risk with my money in case I got to touch it. Well, that emergency fund allows you to keep that money invested, garner that higher potential interest rate, and not have to worry about it. That's the first return on the emergency fund. It doesn't come directly from the account itself. It's what that account does in the other account that gives you the bonus return.
Yeah. If you look at it from a behavioral standpoint, the biggest risk that people have when it comes to their investments is making a bad decision when things aren't going their way. There's another decision that people can make that's bad, which is making a bad decision when things are going your way. But that's a lot rarer. You know, that's like kind of the FOMO type of, you know, the market's doing really well. And Doug doesn't like what I'm talking about.
I disagree. I think people make a lot of stupid decisions when things are going really well because they feel invincible. Hey, I made a lot of money. I must be doing something right.
Well, this is why Kalshi and Robinhood prediction markets exist.
Yeah,
it's because things are going really well.
But I'm saying, like, in terms of investing,
right.
You don't generally see, at least in my experience, you don't generally see people continue to YOLO on the upside of like being successful. It happens where it's, you know, and you read about these stories and how many of them are true. You know, you gotta, anytime you read something on the internet, you just have to be like, is there a chance that somebody's just making this up for clicks? And the chances are always like 50-50, right?
At least.
And you see the stories of like, I had 100,000, I'm up to 3 million, and now I'm back to 10 grand. And it's like, okay, maybe that happens every so often, but I think more people make mistakes on the downside in terms of behavioral things. What I mean by that is saying, I might need this money, like you said, Joe, and the market's down. There's crazy stuff going on in the news. I'm a little concerned about the volatility in the market, so I'm going to take some money out. Well, when you do that, you've locked in that loss that happened, you know, and everybody who I talk to and stackers who are above average say the same thing. They go, no, you don't understand, OG. During 2022, I didn't change a thing. During COVID, I didn't do anything. Well, both of those instances, COVID in particular, was 17 days long. Like we were all still going like, what, are we all going to die? Like money was the farthest thing from our mind at that moment. And by the time you really reconciled and got your statement at the end of March during COVID, it had started to, you didn't know it was the bottom, but it had started to ease off the pressure. That was 17 days. 2022 was like a year, which sucks, but in the grand scheme of things was nothing like great financial crisis or the 1970s, like these long periods of time. And so when you say like, I don't make changes, I go, well, you didn't make change last time. Secondly, you didn't have the money then like you have today. So what you did when you have 200 grand in your investment account would be way different than when you have 2 million. So what cash allows you to do is it allows you to stay invested confidently when things aren't going your way, because you have that backup to say, if I do lose my job, or if my expenses are a little bit higher than projected or whatever, I've got this reserve. I don't have to worry about taking my foot off the gas or making an investment decision that's not in alignment with my financial goals.
And I think even with the 17-day downturn, the thought that I'm going to take money out, even during that, you're like, well, wait a minute. It's only 17 days. I've got this emergency fund built out for X number of months. I don't have to make these silly market timey kind of moves. So even in these much quicker times, we still do the dumb stuff. And I think part of it's also rooted. I like where you're going with this, OG, because I also, part of it is when people think they're behind, they think, okay, I got to play the game more. I got to make these moves. I got to be on top of it more. I got to think about it more. And the more we think about it, the more the propensity we have of making dumb moves and making the wrong timing decisions, which no timing decision, I think, is ever a great decision.
Yeah. I mean, you can get lucky, but it's hard to be lucky consistently. And sometimes we confuse being lucky with being good, and just because you happen to put a bunch of money in April 7th of last year and your 2025 performance looks amazing because you avoided the 4 days around the market going down because of the tariff thing, it doesn't make you a great market timer. It means that you got lucky. And sometimes it's helpful, right? Like that doesn't hurt you to be lucky.
But I think it also makes sense to admit that you were lucky.
Yeah. But if you think lucky is your skill, then
that's a strong suit of yours.
That's already the quote of the show. And we just began. We then also look at other things such as the deductibles on our insurances or insurance that we don't need to buy. Like we might not need the Aflac Duck, the short-term disability insurance, which can be really important if you don't have an emergency fund. I may not need that insurance, OG, at all. And on my homeowners or my car insurance, I may be able to raise those deductibles substantially because of the fact that I have insurance. My insurance is this money that's sitting in this emergency fund.
This is something that I hadn't really considered a lot until you just started talking about it. Because when you were talking about like raising your return on cash, immediately I was thinking like, well, what accounts should we use? Like, where's the high yield savings account? And I know we'll spend maybe a second talking about that. But this is a very interesting observation that you have. And I'll just use our personal situation. Where we live, our property insurance, our homeowners insurance, number one, is insanely expensive. Number two, largely excludes wind and hail, which is
the two things that are going to happen.
The two things that are likely to happen. It doesn't exclude it, but it like has a high, has a pretty high deductible for wind and hail damage. And we had a rather large storm that went through the Dallas area some years ago. And so they got this big increase. We were able to change our deductible from 1% for wind and hail, which for what it's worth, like largely still meant if I had a roof damage from hail, I was buying my own roof anyway.
You're paying for it.
To 2%, because in my mind, I looked at that and I said, what happens between wind and hail damage and like the next thing? The next thing that happens is, the house burns down, right? Like, there's not a lot of gap between you need a new roof and something else. Like to me, it's like you have a small claim or the whole thing.
Gigantic. Yes.
To me, I can't prove that. Just in my brain, that's how I think about it. So we were able to offset the significant premium increase by going from 1% to 2%. That increases our risk, right? That increases our out of pocket, but still is in the realm of I'm still buying a roof anyway. If I have to, if there's roof damage, I'm still buying my own roof. But it kept the premiums the same. Actually, the premiums went down a little bit because we have the cash reserve in order to offset that delta. So to me, because we had that cash, that idle cash sitting there, we actually saved money on our insurance. The risk is different, and I understand that, and it's maybe semantics and how we're talking about it. But as you're looking at it from a cash flow standpoint, and I think that's your point, it's like, this isn't idle cash. And I think people sometimes get concerned with, I've just got $100,000 just sitting there. And that $100,000 buys you a bunch of stuff. It buys you lower premiums. It buys you increased returns in your market. And of course, we'll talk about actual returns in a second, but all of those things count in that decision matrix that you're making.
It is far more valuable, I think, than the pundits give it credit for when they say the money's just sitting there. But let's dive into how you notch up the actual return on that specific account. If it's all sitting in a Bank of America savings account, Doug, you did me a favor while we were having this discussion. You were looking up the current interest rate as we record this on a Bank of America, just regular savings.
Yeah.
What's it paying?
It's not as dark and gloomy as I thought it was, Joe. Things must have changed in the marketplace because it's 0.01% to all the way up, balloons all the way up to 0.05%. So, I mean, I don't know why we're pushing high yield savings accounts so often, because I think you're pretty good just in the straightforward vanilla.
You're making between next to nothing and next to nothing. It is so frustrating when inflation is just clicking along at 3% and 4%. You end up with interest rates that have difficulty keeping up. And I think the goal with your emergency fund shouldn't be to kick the pants off of inflation, but certainly to try to keep up as much as possible. There's a few things that OG and I look at when it comes to notching up the interest rate. And I think maybe the easiest one, OG, without changing banks, is probably to look at the money market accounts that are at your bank and to look at CDs that are at your bank. So without changing banks, we can just use these different accounts. CDs are something for me. Let's start there, because I think in the current climate, CDs just aren't doing it. Like, I think about it for 25 seconds and I go, yeah, probably not. CDs just don't seem to be paying a high enough interest rate to put them on the table at this particular juncture. Or are you seeing things differently?
Well, the concern that I think most people have, and I bet this is your concern as well, is you look at it and you say, well, maybe I've got and I don't like these terms. We'll talk about this more next week, but let's say that we have a 12-month emergency fund, right? And you look at that and you say, okay, I know I can't have a bunch of money in my checking account. I'm going to keep 3 months there. I'll keep 9 months in my long-term savings, my long-term cash. And then you look at the CD rate and you go, but I might need it in 3 months. So I'm going to have a 3-month CD. And then you look at the rate and you go, I'm getting 2% or whatever number is there, but I'm giving up the liquidity for 3 months. And that just gives you some heebie-jeebies, So one of the ways, I was going to say, to contrast that, you say, well, in order to get a good return, air quotes good, I need to lock this money up for 3 years, which totally defeats the purpose of having an emergency fund, because, I'm going to need it. Now the reality is that while it's locked up, all that is just a penalty to withdraw it. So you could say, I'll take that gamble. I'll take the 3-year rate and assume that I'm not going to need it. And if I do, I lose a little bit of interest.
Yeah, the vast majority of these penalties are not punitive. It's just you lose interest, you don't lose your principal.
Yeah, that could be the case. The other thing that we see, and again, this is maybe like 201 type stuff, would be to say, let's buy some laddered CDs. So you say, I'm going to look at the 1-year CD is a profoundly better return than a 3-month, right? And so you say, all right, I'm going to buy with 3 months of my emergency fund, I'm going to buy a 1-year CD today. And then in 3 months from now, I'm going to buy another 1-month CD 1-year CD with 3 months. And then 3 months after that, I'm going to buy another 1-year CD. So basically you have this rolling every quarter. You've got a year CD coming due. That is a 1-year return, basically.
Bumped up interest rate.
So you've got the liquidity, and so you could spread that out. You could structure that and say, well, the better return is a 2-year time frame. So I'm going to do, I can structure this out over 2 years. That offsets some of the liquidity issues and gives you a little bit better return if you're looking at, from a CD versus a bank money market account, which is going to be somewhere between a checking account rate and large, 1-year CD probably.
Well, and with a lot of banks, that's my issue right now is that the delta, the difference between what that 1-year CD even pays and that money market account, for me, in most cases, in this current conditions, I go, you know what, I'm just going to leave it in the money market because the difference is not going to be worth the squeeze. A money market account has an important feature, which is that it is insured. So if something happens, if there's a run on the bank, you can get it your money. You can move it to your brokerage account, OG, and now you can bump that interest rate up with something that is a money market fund. I think it's important to note that a money market fund doesn't have insurance, but if we look at time frame wise, in modern history, we've had one time when money market funds have broke $1, meaning they lost principal, and that was back in 2008 when we saw that happening. But I guess money market fund versus money market account, is that the only risk, or would you tell people, you know what, as long as you're comfortable with not having the insurance, put money in a money market fund? Because you'll see a money market fund will earn more money because of the fact that you're not paying for that insurance through a lower interest rate.
Yeah, I mean, it's still invested in government treasuries, generally speaking. In a money market fund, you can also look at, if you're in a high marginal rate, you could go to, and in a high tax state, you could look at municipal money market funds. They also have those where you're going to have some tax advantages for the dividends that are paid there. I'm not concerned about the liquidity or the breaking the buck thing that happened one time. I think that's a risk that you have to recognize is something that you could have once in a generation or once in a 30-year time period, when things are really chaotic. So that doesn't overly concern me, especially if you just, check the box and go, I understand that this could happen. I would much rather have a high yield savings account that is FDIC insured and super liquid for my emergency fund than necessarily nickel and dime it for a little extra money. But then the access is weird. I got to sell a fund. Sometimes it's still the sweet money in my brokerage account. So maybe I accidentally invest that money and I didn't mean to. There's a lot of other intricacies there when you use your brokerage account for your cash. Not opposed to it. I just like having designated buckets. And I'm becoming more of a fan personally in literally the bucket strategy of cash. I love telling these little lessons that I learned on my own here. I never was a big fan of that. In my mind, you could bucket it out forever. Like, well, in 2061, I might buy a car, so I should probably have some bucket money. It's like, okay, like seriously.
Different buckets.
Yeah. What I've realized for me personally is that we have such large expense. This is where we are in our life. We have such large I don't say random, but they're not quarterly. It's like property taxes are due in January.
Big ticket things.
Yeah. And the biggest change is just the college tuition thing, which we have set aside at 529, but we're trying to cash flow it. It's not like every 6 months. It's like August in December or August in January. If your school is one of the, it's like, that's not a good rhythm. That's like almost the same quarter. Like if you charge it in August, you're paying it in September. If you charge it in December, you're paying it in January. It's almost like the same period of time of your life that you're paying for that. And so I've been thinking more and more about like taking these amounts and spreading them out, the property taxes, the property insurance, which is once a year, the tuition bill, to just kind of offset that a little bit. But again, you got to be careful because you could say, well, I think in 6 years we might go to Disney, so I should have a bucket of cash for that. It's like, okay, you end up with a little too much. But me personally, I want my cash to be like sleep easy, baby. I never want to have to say, sorry, I can't get to that. Sorry, that's only worth 97 cents on the dollar. That's the trade I'm making. I want to be fully invested in the market and fully invested in nice, safe, secure cash.
Yeah, these high yield savings accounts, often they are online. I like the fact, to your point, OG, that it's not a fund where it's commingled with your brokerage account at Schwab or Fidelity or Vanguard or wherever the heck you are. It's in a separate spot. Mine, we have no affiliation with this company. They're not a sponsor. They've never been a sponsor. Mine's with Ally. I like the Ally account myself because they have buckets inside of the account. Yeah. So while I don't have multiple vacation funds, I do have a fund inside of my Ally account where money goes into the vacation bucket so that I always have this segregated money that's not affecting my emergency fund. I also have a new car fund inside of my account so that when the next car time comes, I've got the money sitting there.
Yeah, because you follow the strategy of like, once the payment's done, I just keep making the payment.
I do.
And then 5 years later, I've made 5 years worth of payments and now I've got the cash.
It was great when I was able to turn that corner and pay cash for the car.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, you know this, a lot of our stackers might not. We have one car that is just a complete beater because I don't drive very far. So it won't make it out of Texarkana. This car, if I was 20 miles down the highway.
It's not even insured or licensed correctly. Just be careful when you're out in Texarkana.
Do you know that story?
I know that that's what you do. I don't know that there's a story to it. I remember getting in your car being like, hey, that registration sticker's from like '07, you know? And you're like, yeah, I know. What are they going to do?
This is a horrible thing to admit. It is insured. It's insured. It's been paid off forever. I forgot to go to the DMV to get my license a long time ago. And now I'm at the point where if I get a ticket,
you might just go to jail.
I feel like I'm so far ahead of the game that if I get a ticket, and I know this is the wrong way to think about it. Please don't send me hate mail. This is not healthy. I 100% get it. But it has been forever since this car has had a valid license plate.
Joe, you know, Joe, that we have listeners in like 97 countries, and you're banking on the fact that no state of officials from Texas are listening to this right now.
You think they're going to segregate me out and they're going to all of a sudden
I would.
The Texarkana Popo is in my driveway.
Yeah,
Joe's getting swatted.
And you're like you're the biggest celebrity in Texarkana. They absolutely know who you are. They are coming for you, man.
A search warrant. No, we don't need to search your house. We need to search the late model Chevy
truck that's out there.
Oh my God.
My biggest concern with all of that has nothing to do with insurance.
I can't believe you outed me on that. I can't believe you outed me on
my
that,
concern
dude.
about isn't any of that. It's the fact that I'm going to get picked up at the airport one time. You're going to get arrested. Then I'm going to have to walk somewhere in the Texarkana heat because I'm going to be like, can I just drive the car? They're like, no, we're impounding this thing. I'm like, well, dang it. Now what do I do? I'm like out in the middle of nowhere, Texarkana, and I need to walk.
Yeah, part of that high yield savings should be in a registration bucket, I think.
I mean, it is pretty pricey at like $19 a year. I understand your hesitation.
I have to admit, it has become a crazy game about how long do I go until I get caught.
Fair.
High yield savings, I think right now is the magic and a great place. And again, they have been a sponsor of the show, but in a whole different area, raising money for businesses. You've heard their ads. We've never had them talk about this product, but NerdWallet is now a great place to go and compare high yield savings accounts. And frankly, Ally for me is never the highest, but it's always up there. You know, American Express is a good product. There's several of them. Barclays is fine. Capital One has one. Those always seem to stay competitive and stay up near the top. I just want to pick a good one with a name that I know.
Yeah, we use a collection of savings accounts for our clients. It's kind of an invite only type of thing. Same sort of deal. It's toward the top, never going to be the number one. In fact, I've had people like, well, mine is 3.9, but I saw one for 4.1. It's like, okay, that's not, we're trying to be close. We're not trying to be always number one. It's too hard. But the other thing you have to pay attention to is, especially when you get into some large savings, is potentially FDIC insurance, making sure that you're aware of what those limitations are. This is only for people that have over 250K. I know there's some people out there going, who the hell has $250,000 in their checking account? It happens sometimes. Or it's a business owner that has, business accounts don't have the same FDIC insurance, or you just sold a piece of property, you got $1 million sitting in your savings account. That is some stuff that you should be cognizant of. Can we talk for a second about evaluating the differences between using the money market fund, let's say, or something like SGOV in your brokerage account versus cash interest versus dividends, like that kind of.
I just wanted to ask you about that because
I wanted to ask you about it.
Well, our friend Paul LaPant at Afford Anything had a guy on recently who has a strategy he calls that I wanted to run by you. He calls T-bill and chill, where he's like, for the second tier cash reserve, T-bill it up and get the higher interest rate. And yes, there is a downside to that. And you can potentially step in one of those time frames where it's not the best strategy, but man, you take the longer view of a 40-year emergency fund, you've got your money in a very safe place with bumped up interest rates.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I would say, and this is kind of where I was thinking about this, was the difference between the taxes on the dividends versus taxes on interest. And that could matter to you depending on your tax bracket. It could also matter to you based on the dollar amount of the cash reserve. Again, if we're talking about a $20,000 cash reserve at 4% versus 4%, and you're in a marginally low tax bracket, 12% or 22% bracket, I'm not sure that you're making a heck of a difference one way or the other. But I do think it's worth evaluating if you have a large cash reserve, you're a high income earner and high spender, so you've got a big giant cash reserve. You're a business owner that has decent amount of cash on hand because, that's the prudent thing to do. Or you sold a business or you sold an investment property and you're waiting to deploy that cash into something else. You're not going to invest it in the market because hey, I'm going to reinvest this into another building or whatever, and it's going to sit there for the next year or a short period of time where I'm going to need the cash. I think you have to evaluate dividends versus interest and that difference between, 4.5% and 3.5%. That can be non-material.
Immaterial.
Yeah, I want to bring that up next because I want to dive into that thought here before we say goodbye to this idea, Doug.
This is probably minor and may not even, maybe there's a reason you blew past it, but you've used an acronym twice, OG, I'm not aware of. And so maybe the common guy out there listening isn't either. You've said SGOV at least twice. What is that? And should I know what that is?
It's an acronym, Doug, just a very popular cash alternative in the parlance of DIYers. It's the equivalent of VTSAX parlance.
Oh.
When you say that, you go, oh, I generically know what that might mean. It's a ticker symbol. SGOV is the iShares 0 to 3 year Treasury ETF.
This is for short-term
government fund, basically.
All right. Okay.
It's a low-cost passive ETF that is all short-term government bonds, basically. People use it as a proxy for cash, which I think is a fair trade. It pays a little bit higher than your routine, savings account, high-yield savings account, taxed a little differently. And that's basically the crux of what I was talking about with Joe was, does that belong in that discussion of, is it worth having that little marginal extra in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, gotcha.
And I don't know if I haven't sat down to figure this out, honestly. Maybe I should use some AI tools to evaluate this and create a policy around it. But it seems like it's a little bit better return, dollar for dollar. It's a little bit better tax benefit, depending on what tax bracket you're in or could be. It's a little less convenient because it's in your brokerage account, not in your savings account. It requires you to trade it, although it is a T+1 trade. So it's like literally the next day it's available. So it's not super illiquid, but you're not getting it today. And is it worth like playing the game of like high yield versus, and bouncing it all around for an extra whatever percent it is, 0.2% a year difference? I don't know. But I think you have to explore it if you have a large cash reserve. If you have a large amount of money sitting there that's going to be deployed for something later and you're in a high tax bracket, I think it's worth exploring as an alternative.
And sarcasm and obvious jokes aside, generally government bonds are thought to be pretty stable.
Yes.
Yeah. So
100%.
Other than the inconvenience of the T+1, it seems like for if you meet a lot or all of the criteria you just listed, it's something you should consider.
When you take your basic financial planning courses, the U.S. Treasury obligations, still the safest obligations worldwide. You could spend hours on this, OG. In fact, we had the stacker Alan on a few years ago on one of our episodes, where we shone a light on people doing some cool stuff. Alan would go from savings account to savings account, and he would collect these $100 bonuses. He ended up making a good amount of money every year, like an eye-popping amount of money every year.
So interestingly, again, back to just OG story hour.
Yeah.
I sold a piece of property. The money is sitting in my cash account right now. And at almost the exact same moment that I sold this, it's like they're listening. I got an advertisement from Marcus for, hey, put your money in here. You'll get a great, Marcus is one of the Goldman Sachs banks, high yield online banks, right? And it said, if you keep your money here for 90 days, we'll give you a $1,500 bonus because it's over 100K. And we'll give you a competitive interest rate of 3.7% or whatever it was. And I sat there and I was like, well, wait a second. If I literally timed this out exactly right, assuming that same bonus exists at Capital One and at E-Trade and at American Express and at Ally, which it probably does, in some form or fashion, that ends up being $6K a year, every 90 days. So I have 4 opportunities to do that. So I get 6,000 plus the regular interest of 3.5%. Let's say this turns into a 9.5% guaranteed interest rate on this money while it sits here. I'm like, this is a pretty good deal.
Alan was making some good money.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a 10% guaranteed return. So the question I have is the juice worth the squeeze of like setting up the new accounts and all that stuff? I haven't done it yet, but maybe I will.
And this is the important thing of this whole thing, right? We get decision fatigue. We had Laura Vanderkam, time management expert, on earlier this year. You want to make really important decisions and you want to save your brain power for decisions that matter, OG. And the thing that I want to end here is that while we did want to get nerdy about this and we want people to mind their money, for people that are like, you know what, I don't know if I have time for this, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
The juice in a lot of these moves, I think sometimes people spend a lot of time on this and they don't make significant returns doing it, where if they spent more time on their career, they spent more time on a better investment policy statement, there's a lot more that could be made than worrying about the stuff that we worried about today.
Yeah. I mean, what's the phrase? Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And what? Nope. Doug didn't like it. Doug gave me a look. What's the phrase, Doug?
No, you were 99% there. It's just
what is
short. It's just perfect is the enemy of good.
Oh, well,
so he didn't like the words "don't let."
Don't let. I believe that's the whole purpose of the phrase.
It's less of an absolute. It's less of an absolute that way.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say Doug's wrong on this one.
It was important for me to edit that.
Doug is kind of the go-to idiom guy, but I believe this one is incorrect. This is a decision-making matrix of, I got to make a decision and I'm struggling with being perfect, but don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Like good enough is good enough.
This is the most important thing we talked about today, Stackers. You need to weigh in on this.
Yes, please do. The best thing that you can do for your cash is establish a system that is easy for you to execute on and that doesn't blow up in your lap. And if I do I'm going to bounce accounts around every 4 months or every 90 days to get the $1,500 bonus, that's awesome until I miss it by a day and I blow up the $1,500. And then all I did was just do a bunch of paperwork because I'm an idiot, or the interest rate lags, or whatever. Like if you can do it and you can create the system to do it, then have at it. Like giddy up. If you've got other things that you'd rather spend your energy on, 3.5% high yield savings accounts, just as good as a 3.75 one in the grand scheme of things.
We listed several different resources and brands here in our discussion. I'll link to those and the pieces that were the inspiration for today's discussion in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. And no matter how you do it, whether you decide to just notch up the interest rate a little bit, make sure that it's competitive, or you decide to get analytical here and really juice that orange. I'd love to hear your thoughts about where you're going with your emergency fund.
Don't sleep on that 0.05 over at Bank of America. I mean, keep that in the decision matrix for sure.
Oh, man. Doug, let's pivot to you, man. It's halfway through the show. Well, it's a little bit past halfway through the show. Before we get to our brand new segment with Anna and OG, give us some trivia, man. What's going on out there?
Hey there, Stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and isn't it amazing all the media around the stock market the past few weeks? It's incredible the terms these journalists use. No wonder we're all worried. I mean, if your two choices on an elevator were the same terms they use for financial markets, there'd be like a button for skyrocket and a button for plummet. We'd never ride an elevator again. Well, it's because of one man that we actually have elevators at all. On today's date, way back in 1854, the first elevator was put into service in New York City. New York City! While you've walked across this inventor's name thousands of times, you may not have committed it to memory. His first and middle names are Elisha Graves. Here's today's question. What's the last name of this Benjamin Stacker who put the first elevator into service? I'll be back right after I go see if Joe's mom is in a downer or an upper mood today. No sense asking for lasagna if she's headed down, am I right?
Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. They're for those all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken, the times you're deep in your flow and can't be interrupted by an auto update. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to you. Built with long-lasting batteries so you're not scrambling for an outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey there, Stackers. I'm lasagna lover and guy who's your elevator to better money tips, Joe's mom's neighbor Doug. One famous stacker debuted the first elevator on today's date in history. I know you'll find this hard to believe, but nobody wanted to get into a little box attached to a frayed rope until they found out that the inventor included a safety device in case things got a little, shall we say, plummety. Because of his commitment to safety first, he earned his first customer, the How Woot department store. Pretty sure that's how you say it. But this man, whose first name was Elisha and his middle name was Graves, had a last name that we all know, or you should know. What was it? Of course, he was Elisha Graves Otis, creator of the Otis Elevator Company. And that name is right there every time you get on an elevator or an escalator. And now let's hand things over to OG and Anna.
We still haven't figured out what the name of this is yet, but today we're going to talk a little bit about cash flow, right? So we're building out this financial plan or working through financial planning, kind of a beginning to end each week for us for the next several weeks. Last week, we kind of laid out the 6 areas you graded yourself. We're going to talk about cash flow today, and we've got a 5-column cash flow plan. You can take out a piece of paper. You can just draw 5 columns in there. By the end of today, you're going to know what goes in each one of those. Super easy to keep track of. You don't need to have 53,000 apps and categories and transactions, because why not? I mean, there's a bunch of tools, right, to help us keep track of this. Why do we want to put it on a piece of paper and not download it?
Yeah, those tools are awesome. This is not to tell people to move away from those budgeting apps or your individual spreadsheet, but sometimes they can be a little overwhelming. And to understand your top line expense number doesn't require you to go in every single week and categorize your expenses and have this meeting and blah, blah, blah. We can figure it out in probably 10 minutes.
And who cares about any of that stuff anyway? What's the end goal of having an idea of what your expenses are?
There's so many places that we're going to use that information.
From a planning standpoint, I guess I'm saying.
Yeah, from a planning standpoint, it's really important for our next episode where we talk a little bit more about emergency fund. We have to
emergencies.
Another fun topic. So we cannot figure out the emergency fund without figuring out this number first.
Okay.
A lot of things within the financial plan is going to spring off of this number.
This is a critical component to the overall plan. Okay, so we talked about 5 columns. What are they? How do I find the information? Let's just go piece by piece. Column number 1 is
income.
Yeah. Where do you get your money from? If you're a regular W-2 employee, this is what number?
I would use your annualized salary number.
Okay. Including bonuses?
Including bonuses,
okay.
Including, like, if you're getting RSU income, any sort of equity income, all of that included on the income.
Gross income, top line, I make $200K. Okay. And I can get that from my pay stub. I can get it from, I guess basically my pay stub, right? Because tax return is going to be somewhat adjusted based on where my savings are. And that's another column. But pay stub is going to have kind of that gross top line number. Okay, so I know how much money I make. Now, the other 4 columns are where I'm consuming this money, right? Where's the first place that I can consume money?
First place you can consume is taxes.
Okay. Uncle Sam gets their cut first. So basically, I could probably take that off of my pay stub too, right?
Now, you could. That's typically where you're going to see all your taxes withheld. But if you're under withholding, if you're over withholding, that might be off by a little bit.
Okay.
We want to check out our most recent tax return and look at the number of the total taxes that you owed for that year, including state, if you have state taxes, including local taxes, if you have local taxes, and adding up that number so that you know exactly what you paid in taxes.
The line item on your tax form that says this is your total tax, not how much I get a refund, not how much I had withheld, because to your point, those numbers could be off by a little bit. If I owe 10, but I withheld 12, I'm getting a $2,000 refund, which is a de facto $2,000 savings account. It's, arguable as to whether or not that's a good idea or bad idea, but you're doing yourself a disservice if you think your tax bill's 12 when it's really 10, or if you think it's 10 and it's really 12. So
exactly.
Get it from the source. So I need my pay stub for my income. I need my tax form, which, by the way, probably just recently figuring out. So, so you got that kind of handy. All right. What's the third column?
Now we're going to look at savings.
Okay.
We're going to look at if you're saving into a 401k, if you're saving into an IRA, a Roth IRA, if you're saving to cash, if you're saving to a brokerage account, really any sort of savings.
HSA.
HSA.
529.
Yes, 529. All of that.
Trump account.
There's unlimited options.
We can be here all day. Don't name them all. Yes, there's any place.
I'm just trying to give the listener some ideas, but I do love all the specifics.
So any place that you're actively saving money intentionally, like if you're setting up a transfer to your bank account for savings, if you're putting a percentage in your 401k, pre-tax, after tax, if you're putting money in your stock purchase plan, anything that's an intentional savings, and you can itemize those and total that number up and say, my total savings is this.
Yeah. Even unintentional savings where you've realized over the last year, you've just had cash pile up in your checking account, which is a whole nother situation we'll talk about later. But if you see that your checking account went from $20,000 to $40,000 in the last year, that's cash savings that you've done. Even though it's not being transferred automatically every month, it still is not being spent.
A little reconciliation there. All right. So savings, and then we got 2 to go. What are the last 2?
Then we have debt payments.
Pretty easy stuff here, right? Stuff you owe money to.
It's typically going to be a set amount. Debt payments, student loan payments, auto loan, personal loan, all of that would be categorized into the debt payments.
And why do you want to peel that column out and not include it as part of your expenses?
That would be helpful for when you're doing more long-term financial planning, trying to understand what are your actual living expenses. Eventually you're not going to pay your mortgage. I know that might sound very far off for some people.
in the short 27 years from now, you're right. I will have had my house paid off. Yeah.
But a little shorter term, you're probably not going to pay your auto loan for many more years. So that's going to fall off eventually. Those are not your regular living expenses. They are payments that fall off. You could even, if you want to go a step further, you can categorize a couple of other things in this. One could be daycare. You might have daycare expenses that are a lot, and they're probably going to fall off in a couple of years. There might be a couple others that also go into that category that you know you're not going to continue paying for the rest of your life.
Okay. So then the last column is the living expense column. A lot of ways to calculate this. How do we calculate your living expenses after we know these other 4 buckets?
This is the easiest one to calculate.
What are you talking about? I got to get my credit card statements out. I got to get my bank account statement out.
Nope.
I got to figure out how much I put in the vending machine every week. Now you don't even put money in a vending machine. You just tap to pay, which is
dangerous.
That's my kids.
So what you're going to do is you're going to take the income. You're going to subtract out your taxes, subtract out your savings, subtract out your debt payments. And what you're left is what you're spending.
Everything else.
Everything else.
Is there a test? Is there a way to make sure that I'm not spending too much money, or like what's the little catch-all at the back end? We have one little litmus test at the end of every year that you can just double check.
Yeah, I mean, if you are seeing that your cash reserves of your checking account, emergency fund, any of those, or your credit card balance, let's say the cash is going down, credit card balance is going up, then we know that you're spending more than that actual
Something's
number.
happening in that expense bucket to account for that. And it could be those one-off expenses like you mentioned. Could be something intentional, like you chose to spend an extra $20,000 on the backyard remodel. That's what drove the cash down and the spending up. But it just gives you a little bit of pause. So 5 columns: income, taxes, savings, debt payment. Take all those things subtracted from your income, and that leaves your everything else bucket. And the everything else bucket is just kind of back tested by what's going on with consumer debt and your checking account. The everything else bucket is the key to everything from here on out. This is the secret number. So homework for this week, I already told you 5 columns. Sit down. This will take you no more than 3 minutes to do. You just grab the information, pay stub, tax return, loan payment information, which you probably know off the back of your hand. And then that's your monthly or annual cash flow number. We use annual because sometimes cash flow is a little lumpy, but that's your spend number. That's your lifestyle expense number that we use.
Easy as that.
Easy as that. All right. Next week, what are we doing next week? Do we know yet?
Jumping into the emergency fund.
Oh, emergency fund. Got it. All right. That sounds fun. See you next week. 8 squared.
Bye.
Hey, this is Andy Hill from the Marriage, Kids, and Money podcast. And when I'm not singing Disney karaoke songs with my kids at home, I'm stacking Benjamins.
Nice job again, OG. Good work, you and Anna. Well, this thing's rolling. Let's wander out on the back porch before we say goodbye, because we did have some discussion after we asked, what should we name this segment? And we had a couple of them, Doug.
We did. One from James, he suggested Anonomics.
Anonomics. How about that, OG?
Okay.
Anonomics.
Okay.
I mean, I hear anatomical when I hear that, but
I think of what's that cartoon, the Animaniacs?
Animaniacs?
Animaniacs.
Yeah. Animaniacs.
Yeah.
She's definitely a maniac. We should have her be part of this discussion, but
we should, yes. But we're not going to.
We're not going to. We're just going to do what we want.
She's already left for the day. So, yeah.
But Joe, we also got a letter.
We just got a letter. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. Wonder who it's from.
George said, since OG's past military service is referenced on a somewhat regular basis, how about
basis on a regular basis? Referenced on a regular basis.
George suggests, how about basic training as the name for the new segment? Perhaps with the military sounding music playing in the background. That's pretty slick.
Okay. Interesting.
That's what we got so far, OG.
All right. We're going to keep the poll going and see if...
I'm
not saying no. I'm just saying not right now.
2029, we'll make this decision.
Wow. I liked both
Doug
of those.
got a nickel for every time he's heard that in his life.
Keep Keep them coming, people. Joe at stackingbenjamins.com, or open it up to the Basement Facebook group. Maybe hit us up on Spotify, whichever way you'd like to go. We also have our movie, Doug, coming up on Wednesday. I'm going to have popcorn. I don't care what OG does. You going to have popcorn?
I am. And I'm probably going to do the best mix ever. I'm going to do a little bit of caramel and mostly cheese.
Mine'll be popcorn flavored popcorn, but it's really good. It's a 7-minute movie called Retirement Plan. It was up for Best Animated Short. Sadly, it did not win, but how often does a movie about personal finance actually make it? I think that's incredible. I believe it was backed by the New Yorker. It really makes a lot of fantastic points. And Don and Tom, from not just Talking Real Money, but also the guys behind the Retirement Conference, which had Christine Benz spoke there. Paul Merriman spoke there. We had a great time at Retirement a couple weeks ago. It was just a wonderful conference, one of the nation's top retirement planning conferences, one day only, and super fun. They are going to be talking retirement with us.
7 minutes. I can't tell you what I had for lunch in less than 11 minutes. How do you make a whole movie in 7?
Well, and that's why they very succinctly say some things, and then we're going to take another 45 minutes trying to maybe say half of what it said. Actually, I think there's going to be a lot to expound upon, because the first time I watched Retirement Plan, I had some ideas, and the second time I watched it, and I've watched this thing 3 times, and every time I come away with a little something different. So we're going to really do a good job, I think, of fleshing out what you need to do to either plan retirement or your continued retirement. Much more than just the money side. This film is not about just the money. It's about what are you going to do? So good stuff.
I got distracted there for a second. We're talking about a movie about retirement planning, and I heard flesh. Is there nudity in this? 'Cause I'm in.
There is some skin. It's old retired guy skin.
Oh.
But I don't think there's any nudity. stackingbenjamins.com/movie, by the way, to go there, or just go right to our YouTube page, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. All right. That's going to do it for today. A lot going on. If you would like to meet people in person, look up one of our bad groups. I know the guys in Tucson have their first official meeting. They've had one meeting, but their official meeting coming up in April. They are getting rolling. I know our group in Seattle has a meeting coming up, our group in Boston, and our group in Southern Minnesota. I know that the Twin Cities just had a wonderful meeting about using retirement planning calculators. So look for groups in your area. That's at stackingbenjamins.com/bad, BAD, which is Benjamin's After Dark, our fun get-togethers for local meetup groups. All right, Doug, man, you got it from here. What is going on?
Well, Joe, first, take some advice from you and OG. That interest rate game, you probably don't need to play. Find a good high-yield savings account, raise your deductibles, stay invested, and your emergency fund will have a high rate of return. Second, if you do play, tier your reserves into 2 levels. Keep enough in place for now emergencies, and a second tier in a safe place that earns some money but is still stable enough that you can tap it without worry. Oh, I'd tap that fund. But the big lesson? If you want lasagna for dinner, slowly describe to Joe's mom how much you love that gooey melted cheese and those firm noodles, bit by bit. In the aftermath of that, yeah, you got it. She's upstairs making tonight's dinner right now. Man, I am really good at what I do. This show is the property of SB Podcast, LLC, copyright 2026, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. And oh yeah, before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.
Oh, gee, I know that there are some things you wouldn't do in a million years. You barely have time to come to this podcast. Like it barely makes the cut of things that OG likes to do. So imagine sitting down and going to like TripAdvisor and writing a review of some experience you had, like telling people that you will never meet again.
I've debated this because we were on spring break last week and we went to this, we just used VRBO. That's kind of our go-to condo rental thing. We liked the area that we were in last time, so we do it and bang. Turns out it's like literally the same condo we've had 2 other times.
It's exact. Wow.
It may be because they allow like not full weeks, like because most times, during spring break, they want, Sunday to Saturday.
All the days.
But anyway, so we were like, oh yeah, we've been there. So on the second day we were there, we go to turn the faucet on and the faucet like runs for a second and then it stops running. You turn the faucet, you just turn, you're like, it's not working. But the dishwasher's running, so that's good. There's another like water filler station next to the main faucet, like you can just fill up a glass of water from like kind of a filter water thing out of the sink. That works just fine. I'm like,
okay, this is weird. It's not a water main issue.
Like it slowly stopped running and then it stopped. Okay. Doug's perplexed. He's building a house.
Well,
what do you think this might be?
I don't think bathroom faucets have prostates, do they?
Nope. Nope. But this was a kitchen sink.
You can tell what a handyman Doug is. It might be the prostate.
I think
he's actually pretty close, surprisingly close. So I said to Lissa, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just text the people. Like, this is weird. And she just kind of casually says, yeah, it was really weird this time. The towels that were in Caroline's room and the bathrobe were like soaking wet. They're like piled up, but they were like soaking wet. Like they just took them out of the dryer and didn't even, like from the last people, they washed them. They weren't completely dry and just put them up there. And I was like, that's annoying. So I text the people, because they give you a number to text. I'm like, hey, the faucet's not working. We're going to go ski. If y'all could figure it out, that'd be great. So they write back, 5 hours later, we're sending a tech out there. So what do you think the issue was? Doug said prostate of the faucet,
the Throckmorton valve.
The actual answer was they needed to replace the batteries.
What? The batteries in your sink?
What? In the faucet. And I was like, I literally wrote back, I go, what kind of dumbass has a battery operated faucet in their condo rental?
You won't be staying there again next year.
Supposedly it was some sort of like also faucet you could touch to turn on, one of those deals, but you'd think there'd be a backup of whatever. I didn't know that you could touch it to turn it on. It's probably my problem of 25 years of marriage.
This whole thing was a setup for that joke, and I'm good with it.
I don't know. That worked out pretty good. But anyways,
fantastic.
So I took the liberty when they wrote back and said, well, we had to replace the batteries. And I said, what the hell kind of faucet? I'm like, and oh, by the way, the dishes were dirty in the cupboard and I listed all the things. They're like, sorry, we know you're a repeat visitor. And then I thought, I'm going to really roast these people. And then I was like, nah, I don't actually care that much.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, that's funny. Leaving a review in the first place, I only leave a review if I'm way excited. And I would think of the three of us, I'm more likely to leave a review than either of you do. If I'm really excited or if I'm really pissed. So imagine when I heard this brilliant comedian, Al Midrigal, talking about this topic and the psychos that leave middling reviews.
Any 3-star review you see at any point in your life, know it's written by a crazy person who doesn't have their life in perspective at all. Because think about it. Somebody went somewhere, did something, used something, ate something, went home, remembers one of their 40 passwords, and they log in, write an unsolicited 5-paragraph essay, ultimately to arrive at, it's pretty good. 3 stars.